Hey guys, welcome back to the lounge here at the Global Game Jam. I'm your host, F. Tom, depends on where you're looking at me from. Either way, across the side, we've got Paul from Houdini and SideFX. Fantastic. Thank you for taking your time and being here with us. How you doing, bud?
Hi. I'm doing good. What about you?
I'm doing well. It's been an exciting kind of 2 days. I've got a chance to kind of talk to a whole lot of different people here at the Global Game Jam, both people sort of like in administration roles, talking community, creative people, talking about like what it's like to kind of, be the creative type. And now on to more of the nitty gritty, the technological, the under the hood type stuff, because games are a fun mixed media type experience and you kind of need all the pieces. So here we are on Houdini, very much the under the hood thing. So I'm going to give you the floor real quick. Talk to us a little bit about what Houdini is and how it operates in the world of games.
Yeah, of course. So I work for a company called SideFX, and the product that we create is called Houdini. Houdini is a DCC, or a digital content creation application, just as, for example, Maya or 3ds Max, Blender, and so forth. But the special and unique thing about Houdini is that it revolves all around proceduralism. And proceduralism is sort of a bit of a trendy word. It's becoming more and more trendy in the games industry, right? We've seen Substance, we've seen lots of other things. But Houdini focuses on the proceduralism mainly for geometry, at least in the games context, right? As well as effects, compositing, and some animation components of that. So you can essentially do whatever it is you want to do with Houdini. And so what do people use it for in games? Tons of AAA indie solo game developers are using Houdini to either procedurally generate landscapes, with terrains, placements of objects, creating all the explosions and so forth, right, that you can then export out into your game engine. So it's basically an all-around content creation pipeline, and overall, really powerful powerhouse to work with.
It's a lot of fun. It's kind of interesting. Like you said, proceduralism is a big conversation right now in the game industry. And I think, I was talking to some people with respect to like engines and the idea of proceduralism and cutting out some of the tedious nature of plotting. And what do you say to the designer or the developer that is concerned with where's the line of the computer's designing for me versus just a tool to make it easier? How does the proceduralism actually work with respects to like in-game, in practice?
So, is the computer really making decisions for you? No, it's not really, right? Because proceduralism essentially means it's a set of procedures that happen based on, an input. So for level designers specifically, you can create a tool where you, for example, place a curve, right? And with that curve, you make some sort of area or something. And based on that, you can scatter, for example, trees, right? So in terms of control and an art direction, you are essentially the director telling the computer what it is you want them to do, right? So you become less of a grunt worker that does all the hard work themselves and more of a puppeteer master, right? Where you tell the computer, you're going to do the work for me and this is how you're going to do it, right? Because nobody wants to go around and place, grass individually. You want to either paint it nicely or you want to, build a nice little system that generates an entire world for you automatically, right?
I feel that. Great analogy, by the way. The puppet master. I love that. I was looking at some of the stuff from some of the people that have used Houdini, and the effects are really cool. I saw just off the rip one of the ways that we have seen Houdini kind of implemented was they made an explosion and all of the camera facing entities had like the same animation on it, so that they were, instead of individually placing that, you get the realistic effect there. So explosions are really cool. What are the other kind of like big, takeaways that I can run with Houdini, so to speak?
So another big thing, I'll just use an example that I've did because I've participated in a couple of game jams as well, of course, is something that I often do is I just build a tool that generates certain style from an input. So if I, for example, model a simple tree or model a simple building, if you have several members of your team that all have sort of a little bit of a different art style because they have different levels of skill or different preference in terms of how they create art. If you have, for example, a procedural tool that takes in geometry and then outputs something that looks low poly and everything looks the exact same style, that's another way of using Houdini procedurally, right? You don't have to build complex tools. It can be used to do very simple things that are repetitive to do as well, right?
And that's, like you said, that's perfect for game jam situations where you're trying to, find ways to sort of shave off time, not necessarily limit the scope, but limit the grunt work, as you said, to all the ins and outs.
Because you can do everything. You can either build a really large team and try and do it that way, or you can have someone who focuses on proceduralism and functions as a whole team themselves, right?
Sort of like the liaison for everybody else, and that's kind of fun. At the same time, going from hey, I've been using Blender for so long, going to a different something like Houdini might be a little bit daunting. What do you say to those people that are like, I've got my tool, man, why would I change? How do you kind of approach that conversation?
Yeah, so that's I think where Houdini Engine comes in, because that's another big piece, part of the puzzle. So you have Houdini, which is a standalone application where you can build all these types of tools. So I mentioned, the let's call it stylizer tool, right, or voxelizer, or make it look like Minecraft kind of tool, right?
Sure.
Imagine having to import all of your geometry into an application such as Blender, Maya, Houdini, and then do the work there, and then export it out as an FBX or something else, and import it into your game engine. Well, that's where we have something called Houdini Engine. And Houdini Engine allows you to take the proceduralism, the tool, so to speak, that you've defined, or your blueprint, and take that functionality and bring it into your game engine and keep it live there. So that means that all of the parameters and sort of properties that you're tweaking usually to make it procedural, that's something you can do directly from within the engine. So you don't even have to take all of your stuff out there and import it back in. No, you can actually use the power of Houdini inside of the engine. And to make it even easier for you, we released the Game Jam starter kit for a Houdini Game Jam that we did late last year, that has a lot of these common things that people do straight out of the box. So you just download them, you plug them into your engine. In this case, we've shipped presets for Unity and Unreal, drop them in there, and you can use them right away. So examples of that are a tree tool. You can draw a curve in the editor, in your game engine, and it will generate a tree from it. You can then have parameters that control how many branches do you want, how many leaves. Another one is a rock generation tool, right? There's tons of rocks that you need for a lot of games. It can scatter them. It can generate large clusters of rocks. So you could, for example, use boxes to block out the overall shape or silhouette of your level, and it will automatically convert that to look like rocks. Foliage generator for plants and so forth. Pipes. Some placement tools. So, for example, being able to just draw a curve in the editor and it will place a fence along that, or place trees along that, or lots of other cool things with it. A platform tool. So you can create either with curves a platform. It will create a nice looking stylized platform. And even a wave function collapse tool, which sounds complicated, but what it essentially does is you can essentially draw a little example of how you want your level to look like in a bitmap image. And then it will extend that to make a level that's many times larger than that looks the same way. So it's a really cool way to generate entire levels based on an image. So you can just be in Photoshop and drawing a little level, and Houdini Engine will generate the level for you based on the props that you have in your project.
That's perfect. Like I said, especially with respect to Game Jam, these are the things you're looking for, right? You're like, okay, I have this great idea. I got to spend 4 hours plotting trees now. Yeah, that's no longer a conversation. Yeah. You've got your 44 hours, so that's awesome. That's really, really cool. You mentioned the Game Jam starter kit. All that stuff that you just mentioned is in that starter kit. Where can we find it? Where can we download it from?
So you can download it right from our website. So the easiest way to find it would probably be go to Google and type in SideFX Game Jam Starter Kit, and it'll be the first result. And another point as to why you should look at Houdini is, I mentioned the replacement of grunt work, right? But the other thing that it allows you to do is focus less on that and focus more on polish. Because from my experience participating in game jams, the distinction between a game and a good game is always how much time have you spent on polishing it, right? Have you been doing lots of feature creep, Or have you said, no, we want to finish our game within the first 24 hours, and the second half of it, we're going to focus on polishing and improvement. So that's another big thing that it can help you with.
Yeah, it certainly puts you in the best position to kind of move forward, truncate a lot of the conversation about the regular, just going through the motion stuff, and allow you to get your best vision out there, which is awesome. And then, of course, beyond the scope of Global Game Jam, just making your life easier with respect to executing some of the more mundane aspects of what we do here. That said, it sounds like Houdini is relatively, if you've kind of worked with some of the other tools out there, some of the skills might translate to Houdini. That said, where can we learn a little bit more about specifically using your product and your world here? What are some good resources?
So if you go to our main website, which is simply sidefx.com, at the top you have a little bar, and one of the options you can click there is Learn. And there's a couple of options there, such as getting started. So if you're completely new to Houdini, you don't know what to do, where to start, that's a great page to go to, because it can give you a couple of options to pick. Do I want to learn effects? Do I want to learn modeling? Do I want to learn any other type of thing? That's where you'd go. Then we have learning paths as well. So those are sort of more hand-holded approach, where I want to learn how I can build an entire world and generate all the things procedurally. It sort of guides you through all the different kind of steps, right? First, we're going to do a terrain. Then we're going to do some modeling. Then we're going to do this. Then we're going to do that. And then, of course, we have lots of talks and webinars. So that's probably not something that you're going to watch during the game jam. That's something you'd probably want to do before it, so you know what to do. As well as tutorials that have been made by either staff members of SideFX, as well as the huge and awesome community that uses Houdini.
Yeah, I've seen a lot of the comments under some of those resources, just like, this is exactly what I need. So a lot of good sort of reception from people out there, professional game developers, hobbyists, solo, indie, like you said, a lot of different aspects coming together. So I think that's kind of a dope look at, what Houdini's been able to do and what they'll be able to do in the future with respects to like different features and stuff like that. Talk to me a little bit about SideFX Labs. You guys have something a little bit different going on there. What's that all about?
Yeah, so that's a good point. So SideFX Labs is a tool set that myself and a couple of colleagues in the games team are working on. And it's a tool set that consists now out of over 220 tools that are all tailored towards digital content creators in the real-time field, right? So games, VR, AR, mixed reality, and even some, more feature work type things, right? And they're all free, they're open source, free to use, and they focus on solving direct production problems that you might have. Like, for example, how do I export this giant pyro explosion? How do I get that into my game engine? Because I'm not going to be able to import millions and millions of voxels of a complex film quality explosion in my engine. That's the kind of problem that SideFX Labs solves for you. And another core feature of SideFX Labs is that it's built for you as a user. We're really, really close to our customers, to our community, to actively ask, what are the problems that you're trying to solve? What are you stuck with? What problems are you trying to solve? And what parts of Houdini aren't quite there yet for what your needs are? And that's how we've built the tool set up to 220 tools. A lot of them are actually also community contributions, where some of our customers or users say, hey, I've made this really great tool that I'm sure other people would love to see and use. And then we've distributed that through SideFX Labs.
I think that's one of the cooler things about the whole project, I think, is at the end of the day, what we always want from our tools is for them to understand us. And that's an issue because tools don't understand things. But when they're made by people, us, they're made in that guise. So that's exactly what we ask for as developers is give me a tool that, another developer has literally encountered this issue, made the tool, and then you guys with labs go ahead and execute. That's awesome. And I think that's, the answer to a lot of people's questions out there for sure. And we'll help people kind of make games using Houdini, whether it's at the Game Jam or in the future in general. And so that brings me to kind of, one of my last questions out there. We've talked a lot about kind of getting Houdini, how to do it. All right, I'm already using Houdini. I'm making a game on it. How do I get some recognition for that? Can I shout you guys out, like on social media? Where do we go to let you know that I'm making a game in Houdini with Houdini?
So you can just tag us on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook, at SideFX and hashtag Houdini. So we're very active there. We always want to look at what people do. We want to promote you, right? Because our customers are very important to us. So just tag us there, tag SideFX, hashtag Houdini, and we'll find you, and we'd love to promote your work.
Awesome. Very, very cool stuff. That said, Houdini seems like really exciting, and I think there's a lot of people out there that might be sniffing around looking for other tools. Houdini might be the solution. Anything else you want to shout out to everybody before we say goodbye and go our separate ways?
No, I'd just like to, wish everyone a good game jam and make sure you have, all the pleasure you can during it, because that's what it's all about.
That's absolutely what it's all about. It's about creating the fun stuff. Thank you so much. I appreciate your time, Paul. SideFX, Houdini is the product. Go out there and check it out, especially if you've been making games. It just might be what makes your game the next big thing. That's going to do it for us in this segment. We've got one more at the top of the hour, I believe. Global Game Jam continues. We'll catch you later.
Bye.